But I still, for me, I think just going every season, especially this time of the year when you start seeing M42 up there in Orion, you just go, well, that's it for me. That's got to be one of my favorites. And I never stop photographing it. Every year I do it. I don't know why, but I do.
No, not bad. So here also the Eagle joined us. He wasn't able to join us before because he was still coming from work, but now he has joined us. He's basically one of our visual guys here on the server. And I also put the question to you. So basically, what's the interesting targets there for you visually?
Can y'all hear me well?
Yeah.
Yep.
Very good. I was just checking all my inputs and all that. That's a very good question because there's just I have an 8-inch Dob, border for skies, fairly restricted by trees. So I'm just trying to think about. I think one of the things I really like. I guess I'll talk about two things so I don't ramble forever. One thing is anytime I can get two different types of object in the same field of view, it's awesome. One of my favorite sites recently has been the Fireworks Galaxy and the nearby open cluster, and just seeing, they're both little fuzzy things, but like one of those is in our own galaxy, and another one is an entire island universe of its own, just floating out there beyond our little tiny Milky Way of our own. And the other one, everyone's seen it, everyone's imaged it, but I don't think I've appreciated it as much this year as I have in years past. But it's the Andromeda Galaxy because you can really see it, under dark enough skies with all three kind of facets of visual astronomy: your naked eye, binoculars, and a telescope. And last night, you can. Last night I looked at them in binoculars, and I just realized how big it was. I mean, that thing is a true deep sky object worthy of the name. It fills the view. It gives you lots to look at. Um, and it's just compared to other galaxies, it's amazing with the wealth of stuff you see in it.
That's really cool. Okay, so Jeroen, or did I pronounce it?
Yeah,
I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me on. It was interesting to hear all your different replies and views on stuff. Yeah.
Awesome. I'll
Thanks.
move you back into the audience. And now we come to Andrew. Oh, Andrew. Oh, Andrew just went out. Okay, let's unmute Philo. Andrew, I think I accidentally threw you out. If you could raise your hand, I'll get you back in. So Philo, where you're calling from?
Hey, I'm Phil. I'm calling from Wexford in Ireland. I'm probably a complete new beginner to astrophotography. I have taken images with a tripod and a camera. But I got my first scope in March. It's a Skywatcher 150 BQM. And I suppose my question would be, what are tips for where you've started taking astrophotography, but you just want to move on? Because my scope at the minute isn't connected to a laptop. It's not guided or anything like that. And I just want to kind of wonder what steps would be good to take it to the next level.
So Trevor, I think you covered that topic very recently. I think you should start off with this one.
Yeah, so you can never go wrong by shooting wide field deep sky on a star tracker. I really like that format because it's portable, it's more fun, it takes out a lot of the complexity of it. And this is even before you're using a laptop to automate the sequence. You can use a remote shutter release cable. I think there's a lot of enjoyment out of a simple setup like that. And it also makes a lot of sense if you're traveling to a dark sky area to shoot. Because I'm not sure your situation in terms of light pollution, but it really is night and day. The results that you can get with a simple setup from a dark sky as opposed to a light polluted sea. So I like a nice portable, wide field, deep sky setup like that.
Cool, thanks. I'm in Portal 3 at the minute, so.
Oh boy.
Yeah, a bit of advantage.
You're spoiled.
Wow. Trevor, you're in Portal 6 or something like that, right?
Yeah, it's more of a 7. It's great.
Oh, wow. And Simon, what portal are you in?
I think it's 7 as well out here.
Okay, so relatively similar. So what's your take? Do you have something to add to what Trevor said, or would you approach it differently?
You know what? This is where it's like one of these slippery slopes, and it kind of goes back to one of the guys that was asking about, you know, how expensive everything is and why is everything so expensive. The problem here is when you kind of get past that phase, it's where do you kind of go from there? And the answer is it's really how much money you want to throw at the whole thing. That's where the problem starts. I mean, companies like ZWO have made a very good active effort in that sense, where they've produced inexpensive little devices, kind of like the ASI Air Pro Plus or whatever the hell they want to call it these days.
Mm-hmm.
You know, things like that are, you know, I almost call them gateway drugs into getting into some of the hardcore astrophotography things. But it's such a weird thing to go through, and like I said, it just boils down to how much money do you want to throw away.
Yeah, indeed. So, Dave, we're getting a lot of questions. Also, like some people have 400, 500, 600 euros to spend at first, and then they are asking in what order they want to spend it on, or they should spend it on. And some answer cameras, other answer something else, and ultimately it all ends in the mounts. So, would that also be your answer? Like,
Oh, absolutely. I've got. There was a guy a couple of years ago that was looking to spend €4,000 on a 90mm triplet, and he wanted to stick it on a Star Adventurer. And I was testing it for him with a friend's Star Adventurer, just so we could actually see whether or not it worked or not. And then it kind of dawned on me that I think perhaps maybe he got his priorities slightly wrong. And the thing is that really you should always spend the money on the mount. There is no point having a £600 telescope on a 60 quid mount. You need to do it the right way around. So get the best mount you can afford. But to be honest, anything like Philo's EQM35, EQ32, which is one of my favorites. I think I covered that in a previous video with Astrobiscuit, and also the EQ5s. They all use the same worm gear, and you know, once they're set up, they can actually do really good stuff unguided without a computer. You just need a timer controller and a DSLR and a small refractor, and you're already imaging. It's really simple to get into. And that's the whole point of all this, is that you don't need to spend a lot of money, but spend it in the right direction. You don't have to buy new. There is secondhand telescopes out there you can look at. But the thing with the EQ5 in particular, or any of these scopes, is don't go and get one with, say, an 8-inch telescope as part of a bundle. Try and spend, if you're going to spend about €600 or so, try and split it equally if you can on some used gear between a telescope and a mount. That's what I would say.
mm-hmm. Yeah, indeed. Those bundles can be really dangerous. So yeah, have a look, several looks on that before buying anything. So you didn't just get one answer. It was basically 3 answers. I hope you still can make basically your way for it, Phil. Have you got it answered?
Yeah, it was really great. Thanks very much. And it was great listening to everybody tonight. So appreciate that.
Okay, great. So I'll put you back into the audience. And Andrew, you're next up. Hello, where are you calling from?
I am calling from Hungary, and this might be a very specific question, but I'm into imaging stuff that are very far away and very small, so I have a high focal length Maxitov, and recently I found this object called IC349, and it's basically a reflection nebula close to one of the Pleiades' stars. And it got me thinking if it's possible to use a chronograph in an amateur telescope to block out a star like that. And I was wondering if you guys have any suggestions, because you're definitely much more experienced than me.
Who would like to start with that?
I can actually answer that one. Can you get a chronograph to block out the star? The short answer is practically the answer is no. However, and I say the word however, there is some research that I'm looking into, and it is a modification to a sensor that actually blanks out a certain part of the sensor. So in my particular case, I'm going to be getting a CCD camera and having the center part of the sensor, say, I don't know, 50 by 50 pixels in a circle shape completely blocked out so they don't work any longer, and use something like that to see if I can achieve the same results as you would get with a chronograph. But this is kind of highly experimental at this point in time. Chronographs don't tend to work very well here on Earth unless you've got some serious money to throw at it.
Well, I'm very interested about that experiment because, as I said, I would. So thanks for the answers, firstly, and yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, I'm
Okay.
doing it. I'm doing this experiment primarily because it's all for exoplanets. So anything where you can see exoplanets top down, that's where this crazy idea is coming from. Because you just simply cannot get a disk in front of that star. Because to be totally honest, you could put your finger up in front of your scope and you would not see your own finger because
'Cause it's not in
just the way
focus,
it
of
works.
course.
Because it's not in focus, exactly. But when the sensor itself is completely blanked out, what's going to happen to that? So that's where the research is coming into. I don't know how I'm going to do it yet, but I'm sure somebody knows how to do it.
Well, good luck with that. Then.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Anyone else? Yep, Andrew.
Thank you so much for the answers.
Okay, you're welcome. So I'll put you back into the audience. And Daft, you've also been waiting with your hand up quite a while. So here you are. Where are you calling from?
I'm coming from up north of the UK, northeast-ish.
Ah, okay, welcome. So what's your question?
I just wanted to know what would be better for astrophotography, a Canon EOS 2000D or a 4000D?
You mean as a camera?
Yeah.
Canon, yes. Well,
And,
so basically we're talking about used cameras that are older and have potential to be modified.
just those two types in general, really.
Well, the
Not
2000D, I believe, is the T7, which I have experience with. And what is the 4000D here? I'm gonna look it up.
I think that's the T9, isn't it?
There's
That's
a T9
the
already?
entry level one, isn't it?
Okay, so both the Rebel series DSLRs. I really don't think, based on personal experience, I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of difference, whether it's the newest Rebel or one that's a couple years old. The big thing with those cameras that I find the biggest drawback is that they don't have that flip out screen, which make when you're pointed up through a telescope, it can make it really kind of difficult to get behind it and do what you do. But both are exceptional camera astrophotography when used properly.
Okay.
Okay. So Daft, I'm going to move you back into the audience. And now we've got joining us Wagner. And there you are. So where are you calling from? And what's your question?
Hello. Well, I'm coming from Hungary, and I have a really interesting question. I've been experimenting with stereoscopic 3D. I made a stereoscopic image of Jupiter as it's rotating, and I tried doing the moon as the phases change a bit, but that didn't really work out because I got the black point I tried to push, but that didn't really work out. And I was thinking that would it be possible that two people uh, they they uh, they speak to each other and then they take an image of the moon from different parts of the world and then combine those two images into a 3D uh, big image? Wouldn't that be possible?
Who would like to start with this question?
I'm going to say, I don't know if the parallaxing is big enough for you to notice a shift. Do me a favor, look up a guy called Andrew McCarthy, if you already know who he is. Cosmic background. He does a lot of moonshots, and if I remember correctly, he did do a stereoscopic of the moon, and I've forgotten how he did it. But if I'm in one part of the world to the other part of the world, the shift in parallax is so minute that it may as well not have been there. The only way that you could really do it is you've got to get from one extreme to the other. I mean, and even then, even the parallaxing wouldn't be so big.
So you're talking maybe like from guy from New Zealand and one from, I don't know, Europe.
Yeah, you're literally opposite ends, like edge on. But the thing here is, it's like the way the moon works is it's always facing us. So that's a funny one. I'm not even 100% sure with that one. But again, have a look at a guy called Andrew McCarthy, Cosmic Background. You can find him on Instagram. And I know, and I'm pretty confident he's done it before. But I don't know the exact process, so you'll have to get in touch with him.
Okay. I'll look it up.
I guess you'll have to also take into account, or what may help there is the natural wobble of the moon, which could add in there to give a bit more depth into the picture.
Yeah. Well, I'll look it up. Thank you.
Okay. So Wagner, I'm going to move you back into the audience, and now we've got Evr or Eve joining us. So hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes. No, we can. So where you're calling from?
Sandpoint, Idaho, USA.
Oh, welcome to the stage. And so what would your question be?
So I am fairly new to this, and I've had a little bit of background in photography. So it relates to the F ratio of a telescope. So you can get an 8-inch f4, or you can get an 8-inch f10 in an SET. Aren't we? It talks about speed in imaging. Now, I've read where they say an f4 will be faster at any magnification. But when I do it kind of as a math perspective, if you zoom in an f4 to the native of an f10, are they still going to have the same exposure time? So you got two identical cameras, you got an f10 SCT, and you've got a f4 zoomed in, and you click the shutter on both. Are they going to collect photons at the same rate?
Oh, oh, you're going to be really careful when you answer this one. Who's going to go first?
Trevor, I know you have done everything from f2 with the RASA to, I don't know, f something high with your nice SCTs. Would you like to go first, or Simon, would you like to go first?
I know Simon's going to have a much more technical answer, but just in personal experience, f10 is f10, no matter what the focal length is. I'm going from, say, shooting with my f2.8 lens to something like the Celestron Edge HD 11, which is at f10. I have to shoot much longer exposures with I don't know if I need to or not. I do shoot longer exposures through my f10 at a long focal length as opposed to something much faster.
Yeah, I want to be clear. It's like, so say you've got an object framed in both sensors identically. So say you're shooting the Whirlpool Galaxy, and you've got them framed identically, two 8-inch scopes, but different F ratios. Are they going to collect photons at different rates?
I would think so. I would think that faster F ratio, apples to apples, going to collect more photons in the same amount of time. But I'm sure I feel like Simon's going to have a good answer with that.
Okay, so this is why this is one of these. It's almost worse than a trick question. You just said 2 8-inches, right?
Correct.
Okay, so regardless of what the focal ratio is, they're both going to collect the same amount of light. What the focal ratio refers to is how concentrated is the light. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, because at first I was thinking, well, is an f4 faster because it's seeing more of the sky versus the f10?
Yeah, so that's where the problem starts. Even though both 8 inches collect photons at exactly the same rate, it's how does it go back onto the sensor. So at f10, think of the light cone being slightly wider, whereas if you're looking at an f4, the light cone is going to be way tighter, so it's going to collect more light, so to speak, in a concentrated area, giving you the illusion that you're receiving more light, when in reality you're just receiving exactly the same. And I know there's going to be people that are going to be twitching around arguing with me all day long, but an 8-inch mirror is an 8-inch mirror. There's no two if, ands, and buts about it. The focal ratio is how well does it concentrate the light into that particular area, which is why it's really odd when you say you've got the same framing. How did you manage the same framing?
Say
Because
Barlow's magnification. Sorry.
well, so if you throw a Barlow into the mix, now we've gone and changed something. Let's just say we put a 2x Barlow into the f4. Well, that effectively becomes f8 again.
Correct.
So
Okay.
you have to consider those things in. Now, let's just say you got some weirdo Barlow like a 2.3, and you got it both to f10. You'll actually find that they'll give you almost the same image in terms of light gathering for that particular image. However, I will turn around and say the one with the Barlow is going to look way worse because we're spreading that light out even further.
Okay. So saying an f4 scope isn't necessarily as versatile. If you want to shoot something like the Whirlpool Galaxy, you should get yourself like an f8 or an f10 scope.
Yes, the smaller the object, it's all about focal length. That's all it really is about. And to be totally honest, your focal ratio, as far as I'm concerned, has no meaning. All I care for is resolving power, because I can compensate for my slower scope by just simply exposing for longer.
Right.
Okay, let's also make this question into a visual question. Eagle, have you looked at the same target with different telescopes, or especially different f ratios, that you could actually make something out differently, or how do you perceive it differently?
I gotta admit, I'm pretty limited with what I've experienced because I've never been to like a star party or anything. So I've only ever looked through my first scope, which was a 90mm refractor, closer to like f10, I think. I don't know, Celestial and Astromaster, department store kind of thing. And then now with my 8-inch dog. So honestly, the optics science side of astronomy is something I'm kind of weak in. I understand it on a conceptual level. I don't understand it well enough to really talk about it. Though I do know it does impact viewing. I do like my I guess you can call it my faster scope, my Daub over my refractor, because I do like those wider views of things. Just for a nice overview effect. But honestly, I can't say I know enough to really talk about it that much.
Okay,
You know what,
so
I was going to say, let me, if you're going to talk about visual, I can kind of add to that. If you're using a faster focal ratios telescope in terms of visual, you will get the sense that things do appear brighter. When you look at a Dobsonian, and we're going to compare apples to apples here for a second, an 8-inch Dob that runs at f5.5 versus another 8-inch Dob that runs at, say, f7, which, is going to be kind of weird, but still, you can do that. You will swear blind that the 5.5 is faster. Is brighter. Especially if you're looking at a planet, there is a really obvious difference.
Good to know.
Okay, so ever.
Yeah.
So I hope this answers your question, and I will release you back into the audience.
Thank you.
Okay, so next up we've got Vikram from the audience. Oh, I moved him accidentally out. It's me clicking stupidly. I'll just get the next one on. I'm sorry there. So Vikram, as soon as you're putting your hands up, just come on. I'll put you on, and I'm sending out more invitations as we go. So Discord is really tricky sometimes if you don't click it the right way. Okay, we've got Rias1974. Welcome onto the stage. Where are you calling from?
Thank you. I'm calling from Sweden, up north.
Oh, nice. So what's your question?
Thank you. I've got a question for Dave here. I've got one of those EQ3 mounts, and I've tampered with it, and it's now tracking, it's guiding in below 1 arc second. So I'm happy with that. But I have this issue with backlash, and I've tracked it down to to the worm gear not meshing correctly with the gear on the shaft.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is this a thing? Do you grind down the teeth, the gear on the worm gear? Because I feel that the issue here is that the teeth on the worm gear bottoms out on the gear that's on the shaft. So they don't really, connect with the teeth on the sides. The worm gear is just, it's a bit sloppy to the side, but it's pushing down when I adjust it on the worm gear on the shaft.
Okay. So are you using, because it's a very simple arrangement, and this is the kicker, the worm block on an EQ32 is the same design on an EQ8, people. I've just said this very, very publicly. There's a secret Astro Biscuit thing that's just gone out. So if you're adjusting it, what you'll find is that it's the center one, the 2.5mm grub screw in the middle of the two 4mm ones that you need to adjust. So you don't want to get it too tight. And again, the thing to do is to take, if you're doing it in RA, I would actually take the motor block, the motor out. Okay, just basically you can get it from the back. It's just one bolt. Take it out and adjust it by feel. Do it with your your thumb and your forefinger, and then basically what you're doing is as you're adjusting it, the idea is it's a simple push-pull arrangement. So all you need to do is just use a 2.5mm, set it so when you're adjusting it, it's at 12 o'clock, so it's vertical. Okay, your Allen key, and then basically rotate it clockwise inwards. So you're applying pressure. You'll find that that's then basically forcing, that's inducing backlash basically. And then what you do is you do the whole thing in reverse. So you then tighten it. You then basically loosen it off, tighten everything down, and as you're releasing it, you'll feel the give. Okay.
I've actually done that. I feel that there's a problem here with the gears on the worm gear not meshing to the side. Yeah.
If it is, it's because they're not matching. Because basically the gearing's concave. It's a simple sleeve bearing arrangement. It's quite a rudimentary setup, as you know, if you've taken the mount apart. So it's basically by trial and error. But there isn't anything fundamentally wrong with the worm gears because they're brass and they're very, very simple 10-minute worms. So I think out of the 1,100 or so mounts that I've rebuilt so far, I think I've only replaced one worm gear on one of those. It's just very rare that there's an issue with them. They're actually quite precisely made.
That's nice to know. Okay, thank you.
Okay, yes, thank you for your question. And I'm going to move you back into the audience. And now I hope I don't move again into the audience. Vikram, I just need to unmute there. Okay, Vikram, welcome onto the stage.
Hello.
So, hi, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from California.
Oh, okay, or something. And what's your question?
I'm asking like two choices here. Would you rather shoot in a Bortle 9 or would you shoot in a Bortle 1, but you have the full moon?
Okay, so
in both situations or in just one situation?
In just one situation. Bortle 9 with new moon and then Bortle 1 with full moon.
Full moon.
Yeah, I think it's like a question of the lesser of two evils, basically. What would you prefer, Bortle 9 or
tough
Bortle
one.
1?
I feel like I would choose the new moon Bortle 9. First of all, I'm quite used to that scenario. Second of all, we have filters to block out a lot of that light pollution, but you don't have that moon potentially covering up your target in that specific area of the sky, the close surrounding area. So yeah, just to H alpha that night, your Bortle 9 sky. That would be my answer, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
If you were forced to shoot with a one-shot color camera, which one would you choose?
Oh, geez, now you're making it complicated.
So out of which one-shot color camera do I recommend? Is that what you're asking, or we're still in this scenario of one or the other?
No, it's the same scenario. Just he's got a one-shot color camera. Does he shoot in a Bortle 1 with a full moon, or you know what? I'm gonna honestly say Bortle 1, regardless of the moon. Just shoot the opposite direction. So figure out what's on the opposite direction of the moon and just go for that instead.
Yeah, that's a
yeah,
good
that's
strategy.
just my situation right now. So
yeah.
because I get to go to a Bortle 1, but there's gonna be a full moon that day, or I can stick with my backyard. So I don't know which one to choose.
Actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, there is one little minor caveat: is if if you can see a halo around the moon in this Bortle 1, I wouldn't even bother shooting, because it means that there is something high up in the atmosphere, and that moon is just going to light up the entire sky like a Christmas tree. If it is actually pitch black and you don't see a halo around the moon, like I said, anything in the opposite direction of the moon and you should be okay.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, Vikram. So I'll release you back into the audience.
Well,
And
I was going to say one extra thing about that
yeah,
for observing. Honestly, I'd rather be in Portal 1 because that means I'm in the middle of nowhere, so I'm probably camping or something. It'd be a better time than Portal 9, you know?
yeah. And how does the moonlight spill into the telescope when you're watching visually?
It's not fun. You can still look for, I mean, it's kind of a challenge in a way. You can really, all of your favorite objects are going to be really dim and washed out. So it's, in a way, it can be a fun challenge to even get a glimpse of stuff you're used to seeing easily. And you can still enjoy a few open clusters and all that don't get completely killed. And if the planets are up, that's always nice to look at.
Oh, wow.
And if it's Portal 9, then at that point, I'll just do some sidewalk astronomy. Put your dob on the sidewalk and have people look through it or something.
Yeah, right at the moon. Yeah. Oh, cool. Okay, next up we've got Stars 9345. Welcome onto the stage. Where are you calling from?
Hello, I'm calling from Slovenia, Ljubljana. I'm a high school student, but I got into astrophotography about a year and a half ago. And first of all, I'm of course super excited about the fact that I can talk to some of you guys that I see as kind of the pioneers of this hobby. And my question for you is, what would you say is the single best tip you could give to a beginner astrophotographer?
So the single best tip you could give someone beginning in astrophotography, right? That's what I understood.
That is correct.
Okay. Okay, so we've got here a starter question. What would you answer? That's Dave. Would you like to start first on this one?
Oh, there's a single one. The one that comes to mind, believe it or not, is focus. It's not to do with the mount. You can actually run with a static tripod and take some amazing pictures of the night sky. But the main thing that most people do when they first start out, is because they get really excited, is they don't focus their camera lens or their telescope properly. So I would always say, spend time on focus. So basically, focus on a star. If you're using a DSLR, go in 10 times digital zoom on something like Sirius or any bright star effectively in the night sky, and basically do the little donut test where you're focusing in and out to get it pin sharp. That makes such a difference to your pictures. There you go. All the others, it depends entirely on what equipment you've got. But most of the people, when I've got people in my astronomy group, they always struggle with focus. Even I do from time to time.
Right. So Simon, when you began with astrophotography, did you struggle with focus, or what would your single best tip be for someone starting in astrophotography?
Single best tip is, I'm probably going to say don't look at other people's work. And I know that sounds really odd, but why do I say something like that is, you kind of want to find your own mark and figure out how you want to do things in your own little way. The minute you start following somebody else's page in their book, for a lack of a better description, all you're doing is just doing what they're doing. And I think everybody needs to have their own little twist and take on doing things. So when I look at stuff like from, say, Trevor, and then I look at somebody like Dylan, and so forth and so on, I love the fact that these people are so incredibly diverse in doing different things in different ways because they chose to explore in their own way. But I come across people that I can tell they're just copying what they just saw. And I'm like, that's great that you can do that, but that's not, my idea of a good way to explore anything, if that makes sense.
I love that.
Right.
I think that the very early stages of astrophotography, first of all, it is very easy to get discouraged. depending on what your expectation level is. And I mean, if it was something that the ordinary person did, photograph face, everyone would do it. It's not easy. So avoiding, like, a great way to avoid getting so discouraged that you just want to give it up is to adjust your expectation level, find out what excites you about it. Don't try to, get to where someone else is at, because, well, that never works out. And then those nights of failure that will inevitably happen, think to yourself, okay, what one new thing did I learn tonight, that a mistake I'm not going to make next time? Because I guarantee each and every time you'll learn at least one little thing, and that starts to add up and snowball over time, and all of a sudden 12 months later, you're getting the results that you dreamt of getting when you first had that, passion was sparked.
Yeah. Eagle, what would your single best tip be for someone who would start off visually?
Oh, well, I guess I was gonna try to answer the astrophotography one because I mean,
Well,
I guess
I'm
it kind
just
of applies to both.
yeah.
Um, I, I guess Astro Backyard kind of talked about what I was going to say. Just be patient with it because I know astrophotography it's a ridiculously technical. It can be a ridiculously technical hobby, and it's just a lot to learn and a lot to learn, a lot to do, and a lot to try out at first. I guess for visual, um, let's see. I have two, I guess. One is just learn the constellations. They are your roadmap. If you're struggling to find things, or if you're lost when you look up in the night sky, just learn the constellations. Anyone can do it. Yeah, obviously, the more light pollution you have, it actually gets a little bit easier because you can only see like 5 stars anyways. And well, there you go. That's Orion. So just learn the constellations. They're your roadmap, and it's always exciting and fun to see them year after year. And I guess my last little bit, and I guess my one that kind of ties into both of them is you're just try to enjoy it. You're outside under the stars, looking at things and taking pictures of things that no one else, as a whole, really gets to see or do. You're partaking in one of humanity's oldest hobbies, and you're really trying to push the limits of what cameras and equipment can do. So just, take that all in, appreciate the stars above or the lack of stars above. It depends, but just appreciate what you're looking at, what you're doing, and shoot, if just enjoy it.
Yeah. I can just add to that what you said, learn the constellations, whether it's visually or graphically. Before I even knew that there was something like plate solving, I needed the constellations to start aiming the telescope to the right place, and then standing out alone in the field without a computer, just a camera. You just need to enjoy it, and then enjoy. There's so much pain going to be involved there that you need something to enjoy it with, to counter all the little problems that are going to make you learn night after night. Just what Trevor just mentioned. Every night there's something new that you're learning, hopefully less painful. And just take this in. So stars 9345, I think this answered your question, right?
Thank you very much for your tip.
Always welcome. And I'll move you back into the audience. And Potat or Big Potato, I'm going to unmute you. Welcome onto the stage. Where are you calling from?
So, hi, I'm from Quebec in Canada, so I guess that makes me somewhat close to Trevor.
Yeah. Welcome.
So basically, I have a somewhat pointed-ish gear question. So I guess for context, I'm university student currently, so budget is like a major concern of mine. And I'm currently shooting with a Ioptron Skyguider Pro with the iPolar. And I'm thinking of, in the coming years, I'm not in like a particular rush for this, to upgrade to some sort of EQ mount that would handle more weight, be more accurate, and hopefully with go-to functionality. Primarily because I want to do more mosaics. I tried doing a 6-panel mosaic at a focal length of 360 millimeters, which was very painful with only a tracker. So basically, I'm just asking for like general models that I could look for in secondhand markets to hopefully at some point be able to spot some sort of miracle deal. Because looking online, I had a hard time finding consistent information, especially for lesser known brands of mounts that I wasn't familiar with.
Okay, so the specific question would be how to spot like specific or very good deals.
Just I guess would be the types of mounts I should be looking at, whether it be brands or specific models to look out for in secondhand markets would be my question.
Okay,
I'll go first on this one. What I would look for, if you can find a Skywatcher HEQ5 in that range, they are. I mean, I bought mine used in 2014. And it's still humming along night after night after so many years. So I have only good things to say about those Skywatcher mounts. The E6 was great too. And that HEQ5, when I bought it, was $700 US. My God, it's paid for itself 10 times over.
I have to say, Trevor, I'm really pained that you mentioned that specific model because I missed out on a deal for an HEQ5 that would have been even less expensive than what you paid for.
Oh yeah, if you see one of those pop up, jump on that one for sure.
Yeah, it only took a few days on Facebook Marketplace for it to disappear, and I've regretted it since.
Well, deals come back, so don't worry about missing something. There's always something great out there, and it will always come back. And I mean, it's sad on one side, but there will be disgruntled hobby astronomers who will be selling their stuff or just want to get rid of it, and that's basically the time to strike, so to say. Right? Do you have any deals, good deals popping up in the UK, or do you see how the market is moving, Dave?
Well, I mean, generally speaking, there was a 30% increase at the beginning of 2021. So, and also there's been a real shortage of new stock. So secondhand prices have also become quite inflated, but they are getting a bit more sensible now. But I mean, basically, an HEQ5 is really, for me, the go-to mount, which is mid-range. It's not as big as the EQ6. It's still quite portable. It'll run 11 to 13 kilos as a sweet spot. It's great as a mid-range mount. I really like them. So, you know, it was one of my first decent mounts that I had myself. And you can also add a row and belt kit to it later on. So there's always an upgrade path for them. And you can fit that yourself. So that's something that you can always do. And they just last for a really long time. They're very, very, I would call them bulletproof, basically. I'm sure Astro Backyard would agree with me. So yeah, I would say try and find a secondhand bargain if you can. It's worth hunting around for, and don't wait whatever you do. If you find one, just jump on it.
Yeah, I just need to interject here. Trevor, have you shot at your mount?
I haven't tested the bulletproof theory yet, but I've never been that angry.
And yeah. So Simon, just 2 questions there to you. Have you shot at your mount at one point in your astro career? And if not, have you seen any good deals, or have you seen the prices move in the US market?
Have I shot at my mount before? No, but I will say this. I am planning on hitting a mount with a car at some point. It's getting the person to give up his mount so I can hit it with my car. So
why?
Be on the watch out for that video when it happens.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say any more about it because it'll ruin everything because there's quite a few people listening here, and I want to keep it as a surprise.
Yeah, now you've teased us really.
So yeah, that's a video that I'm working on. But again, I have to get this guy to finally give up and say, "Fine, you can run my mount over." And I'm hitting it with a Ford Excursion.
Are you thinking about sort of like setting up a new mount range called Speed Bump or something?
Not specifically. It's this just makes me think of one particular mount and why I want to hit it with my car, because I've got a Ford Excursion. If you guys know what a Ford Excursion is, it's the biggest
Mhm.
Ford that they've ever made, but it's got 330,000 miles. So it's coming up to its last legs at some point, which means when it gets run into the ground, I am going to genuinely run it into the ground and hit something with it. But yeah, there's a mount that I'm going to run over.
That sounds like a really dramatic video coming up.
It sounds like fun.
But it is. It is.
Yeah,
Yes.
Dave, you're not going to find it so fun when you get it to repair. When you get that mount shipped to repair it.
Even I think genuinely, even Dave will turn around and probably say, "Yeah, I think this mount deserves to be run over."
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, good. That's because I won't be putting a warranty on it then. Well, marvelous.
Anyway, so answer to the question about mounts, in terms of which one to get. I know those guys have said the HEQ5, but I'm going to throw another one out there. Is the Celestron VX mount? It's not the
Celestron
best.
VX. Okay, I'll take note of that.
It's not the best in the world, but it is by far and wide the most common mount in the world, so to speak, or at least here in the US, meaning that they're easier to come by. And a lot of the times, a lot of people do not know what it is or think that it's a pile of junk and they'll let it go for peanuts. And if you look hard enough, you can pick them up for $400 or less. That's US though, not Canadian.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So HEQ5, Celestron VX. Are there other mounts that have similar specs, even if the
Yeah. My first mount, actually that I tuned and got into trouble over, was a Celestron CG5 GT, which actually preceded the AVX.
That's the one that I had. That's the first mount that I had.
Yeah, I rebuilt it, and there's actually one that just sold recently on Facebook. Was one of my customers. And he was amazing. He did 4 minutes unguided at 1,000mm focal length, and did like 20 minutes guided. So I mean, they're quite capable. You just even doing some basic tweaks to them, they're quite
Yeah,
good.
that would beat my 1 minute subs by quite a lot.
Perfect. Yeah, then just give it a go. I mean, the thing is, you really can't. There isn't really. I was going to say Simon's going to disagree me now, but there isn't really such a thing as a really bad mount. But we're about to find that out later in this video. But the thing is that generally speaking, if you go for a CG5 GT or anything else like that, you could even get something in the American market. Obviously, the Omni CG4s, you can get them with SynScan kits and stuff. So some of those actually work out quite well. So, but I mean, anything is going to be better, if you start looking at upgrading, because they're just going to work really well, and it's just going to push you. What kind of scope are you thinking about putting on there?
Currently, I don't know yet, because the scopes would be like even further along the line. So
Okay.
really, I would just use what I have right now, which is a Zenith Star 61, so 360 millimeters. So yeah, just getting longer exposure times, more accurate.
CG5,
less
CG5,
subs.
CG5 AVX. Then sounds about right.
Yeah. Okay. So there, Big Potato, you have your answer there. And probably there's going to be follow-ups, but that's what we have the server for. Okay, so thank you very much for joining. I'm moving you back into
Thank
the
you
audience.
for all the answers.
And
Hey,
we
Consti,
have... Yes?
Consti, quick. Let's do 3 more questions. And I
I
don't know
was...
if anybody else wants
yeah.
to stick around, but I really need to go to the bathroom at some point.
Yeah, I had... Actually, this is the last question, because I already stopped the requests, and this is basically wrapping it up. So right now already. So Astro Caron, I saw that you were texting on the YouTube channel, and it shows me here that you also are very new here to the Discord server. So I guess
I
you
am.
joined in from YouTube towards Discord, right?
Yes.
And okay, so where did you watch the YouTube feed?
The YouTube feed?
Yeah,
where are you?
Oh, sorry. I'm from Ontario, Canada. That's where I'm from.
So welcome. And
Thank
what's your
you.
question?
So I was wondering, so I recently bought the Rokinon 135 because I really want to get into like wide field stuff. And I was just wondering what the recommended f-stop I should use for that lens.
Dead easy, 5.6. End of.
5.6? Okay. Yeah, 5.6.
I mean,
Trevor,
so many people have that lens, so you'll get a lot of great advice on it.
Yeah.
I'd go a little lower, Caleb, on that one. Also, nice to see you here, buddy.
Nice to see you. Thank you. Thank you.
F4 works really well in my experience, where you're still not sacrificing too much of that light gathering power, but you've sharpened things up, and don't be afraid to go even lower than that. Wide open at 2.0 is a little scary,
Yeah.
but 3.2 I've done as well, and yeah, I mean, experiment with it.
Okay.
But if you really want to get ultra sharp, I think Simon's probably right at f5.6, but
Yeah.
f4 is pretty good too.
Okay.
Which
Thank you.
real quick, which camera are you using?
So I was thinking on attaching my ZWO 183 MC to it. That's what I was thinking on doing, but I don't think I'll have my attachments like come in that quick. So I might just use the DSLR for now. But my plan is to use my cooled camera, so I can get
Okay.
that sensitive HA and use my.
When you go into an astro camera, back focus distance is absolutely
Yeah.
critical. That's what
Yeah.
determines if you can shoot at f2 or if you can shoot at f4 or even 5.6.
Yeah.
If you go wide open at f2, you either have to back the camera out or move it towards the lens.
Okay.
And you can tell that by looking at the edge. So you're looking at coma specifically, and you need to see which direction it goes. If it starts pointing towards the middle, like it's like elongated stars pointing to the middle, you're too close, you need to back out.
Okay.
If they start going circular in shape, then it means you're too far out and you need to get closer.
Okay. That's good to
So
know. That's really good to know.
don't just get the default stock ZWO camera adapter and just slap it together and say, hey, why doesn't it work? It's because
Yeah.
the back focus has not been set correctly. In some cases, you can't adjust that. So what I suggest is get what we call a clear optical filter of some description, and that can change your back focus by plus or minus 1 millimeter.
Okay. Damn, that's good to know. Nice. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Esther Caron, thank you for
Yes.
joining. I'll move you back
Absolutely.
into the audience. Okay, so this basically wraps it up for us for tonight. There won't be any more questions here. We've got Speak Easy to later informally join any further discussions. Anyone is welcome to join. Simon, Trevor, Dave, and Eagle. I don't know your first name, but I'm just going to call you Eagle.
It's Adam if you need to know
Oh,
that.
okay. And Adam, thank you for being here as panelists. Of course, to Stace, who is not here right now anymore. She was there for the first hour if anyone joined late. And thank you, Toaster, for organizing all the questions that you've done so far. This is really awesome. Like if yeah, we've got 125 people still listening. Toaster is the guy basically who's doing everything behind the scenes and making this content-wise work, basically. So also thank you very much, Toaster. Yeah, so also thank you for Roy again to hosting this as a platform. And yeah, if feel free to ask more questions in the corresponding channels. There's Ask a Nerd, there's Ask a Mega Nerd. You're all welcome to ask and you're all welcome to answer. And I guess this won't be the last time we see each other in astrophotography question time. So that's basically it. Thank you all.
Marvelous.
Thank you.
Trevor, I will see you in May.
I will see you in May. Yes, sounds like a plan.
Oh, cool.
For those of you who live in the US, this is not a blatant plug, but it is a plug at the end of the day. There's something called the Advanced Imaging Conference in San Jose, California, May 20th through to 21st. If you want to meet Trevor, that's probably going to be the best place to go to.
If I can just take 1 second of your time just to personally thank you for staying on for the extra part of the show as well. Obviously, you've been very, very generous with your time, so we thank you for that.
No,
Yes,
thank you,
indeed.
Toaster. You've helped me out today.
No worries.
Okay.
I'm always happy when I get to answer questions I know things about.
So I will now exit the stage and officially end this. And if anyone wants to stick along, there's a Speak Easy and all the corresponding voice channels. So bye-bye, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Clear skies.
Clear skies. Yeah. Bye.